January 23rd, so we'll open up the Commissioners meeting. Item on the agenda is public input. No public input? And I'll read a letter.
Hey, this
go ahead.
Any word on how the pellet boilers are handling the cold? Like,
I haven't heard recently, but last I heard they were doing quite well.
I'm just saying with the extra, you probably wouldn't yet, but
not yet.
What about the hot water for the laundry? Any word on that yet?
Yeah, we got a proposal, an estimate. You got a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, the delegation meets next week, right?
Right.
Do you have a sense of what they're going to be up to?
No. I'm sure they, well,
budget, more likely.
I'm sure it's a budget, and I'm sure they're probably meeting to get some reports from the subcommittees.
Yeah.
Some of the subcommittees have tentatively approved a portion of their responsibility. In other cases, they had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Follow-up questions that the department heads had to send to them. I've seen one was from Cooperative Extension. I haven't seen any of the others.
What they're up to, Daymond?
Well, I just wanted to figure out, you know, what would be on their agenda specifically. I know it'd be the budget, but if they're going to talk about any specific departments, maybe the what to do with the old nursing home, that kind of thing.
That hasn't come up.
Because we need to figure that out, right? I mean, for the next budget.
They have to approve whatever is done with the old nursing home. Yep. I would still support Cooperative Extension moving in. Well, we'll move on to the regular meeting then. We got a letter dated January 22nd addressed to the Commissioners, whereby New Hampshire law permits and the Carroll County Commissioners therefore allow armed citizens to enter the county administration building and attend public meetings, and in the interest of safety and on behalf of others who have expressed similar concerns, I am writing to request that the Commissioners require that an armed police officer be in attendance at all public meetings held in the administration building. I am unable to attend your January 23rd Commissioners meeting to present this in person, but please accept this letter without signature. I can be reached at to verify the authenticity of this letter. Additionally, as this letter pertains to security, I have no reservations about my request being aired in public forum, but wish to have my name remain anonymous as the law permits.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Why would the individual want her or his name kept or redacted from this if they were willing to come in and do it in person?
I don't know, we have...
Are they going to wear a robe over themselves, or what were they going to do? How were they going to come in here and not be identified? I mean, it seemed to me like a, I don't know what the word is, but they don't want anybody to know here, but they're willing to come in person and tell us. I don't understand it.
Well, I guess that's up to the individual, whatever he or she is requesting. We do get letters that are not signed. We take little action on those. But apparently this person could come in and request it. So anyway, that's on file.
That's point of order. The letter is not signed at all, right?
Right.
And but it would be a public document if it goes to the Commissioners, right?
Yep.
Okay. We'd like to get a copy. Does it have?
A copy of this?
Yeah. Thank you.
And how did we get that? Because I just.
It's on my desk, I don't know
But
how.
how does it come where? Is it coming from the nursing home box? It's,
No.
How did it came there? Because it was on my desk.
You have any idea?
It's on my desk.
It's on my desk, too.
Yeah, but how? Did it came by mail? Did somebody come
I
and drop
don't
it
I
know.
off?
don't know, it was
Don't know.
on my desk.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
asking a question.
Yes, Ed, sorry.
The same request was asked to the chief of police of Brookfield and Wakefield to have a armed officer in the meeting.
The same request was made?
Well, the same type of request.
Yeah, okay.
Now, due to the increased violence that the media is reporting on, I don't think it's improper to, to be concerned. So I think, just like we did in Brookfield, if that one person who has fear when they go to a meeting, they have to call the police and they will attend the meeting. So it is something that seems to be happening in a lot of townhouses and towns.
Well, it's certainly something we should discuss and make a decision on by next week. Shouldn't let it fester.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We have 3 bids that have come in for the annual report. One's from the Minuteman Press, which Mr. Batson can open. One's from Mount Washington Graphics, that Commissioner Kenny can open, and I got one from the Independent.
Was it last year's report that was so late, David? One of the 3 people quoting his job, one of the ones that, the person that has it was so late.
Sure. We normally get these 2, Minuteman Press and Independent. That must be a new one.
It said Mount Washington Graph. It's the printing. Where is your bid from? This is from here, Ossipee? Oh, it's from
This one here
Ossipee.
is from, Carroll County Independent from Ossipee. Their bid is $668 for 185 booklets. 5.5 by 8.5. 75 pages. And we would select the color.
This bid doesn't really set number on it. Quantity of price, 185 and 840 each.
40 pages each? Is that what it-
185 and $8.40 each.
Oh.
That is what it said by the price. Let's see how much that is.
Yeah, you figured that out? What's yours?
Can you switch them around and take a look?
Wow. This is $596.17. 75 pages plus the cover.
I have a recommendation.
It said also it's digital production.
$596.
This is over $1,000.
That's over 1,000?
Yeah, 50,
When you're done,
54.
Asher, could we look at the one you did?
Yeah, here we go.
Thank you.
What was that one again?
Did we have last year?
596.
What did we have last year? Was it Minuteman Press?
I don't remember.
596. And the other one is
while they're reading that, we have one addition to the agenda at 9:45 is Robin Gorden, County Attorney's coming in.
Is coming public or non-public?
Public.
Is my math correct? This quote would be somewhere around $1,500?
Yeah.
You do it on the calculator, actually? So if we
Yeah,
get
I
it
just
right?
check it, yep.
Okay, thank you.
1,500?
$1,554.
Can I make a motion, somebody second for discussion?
Sure, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that we don't give out this bid yet, that we ask the two of the three contractors to come in and make a presentation and bring in what the book will look like, the paper will be like, and answer any other questions we might have.
Okay, I'll second it. They haven't changed depending on who does it. There's no difference in the booklet. We do select the color. But other than that,
Both the papers, it looks like both the papers are the same, 60 pound or however they gauge it on one part,
Right.
on another.
yep.
I'm concerned that, it's my recollection that the things were 2 or 3 months late last year, or was that the year before?
I don't remember.
One of them was very late.
We have alternated because some of the bids that have come in have been very, very close to each other. And we've alternated from North Conway to Ossipee, back and forth. But I think we ought to check to find out the reason for them being late. It may have been caused by us not getting our information to them in time, or it may have been a holdup by them, I don't know. And whether Kathy Geary knows, I don't know. Lory in our office normally handles this. We did get a letter of resignation this morning, effective today, that Lory is no longer, her resignation was effective today.
Oh, she resigned, Lory?
Hmm?
Lory resigned?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So where is the letter?
It must be still on my desk. Oh, did you take it back?
I think we each got a
All
copy
right.
on our desk.
Did we each get a copy?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think we did.
She gave a reason,
Personal.
it's a personal situation, yeah. Okay, so we're gonna,
Can I modify my motion?
yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to change it to that we don't accept one of these bids until we've had a chance to discuss it with Kathy and Gary.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion on the bids? If not, all those in support of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. And so voted.
This one I don't think we need.
All right.
Keep it.
We will have to make a phone call before 11:15 this morning to our attorney. He wants to talk to all three commissioners. And so we will be calling him. If our meeting continues to go on, we'll recess and go downstairs and call Attorney Clausen. Okay, how about Jason? Good morning.
Noted.
Jail staying warm this morning?
Yes, sir. My first item of business when I got to work this morning was to check with Joe, make sure everything was functioning properly, and it was. So,
Thank you.
yeah, everything's good. This morning's count, we had 43 in-house, 0 weekenders, 0 out on electronic monitoring, 5 transfers, 3 out on pretrial release, total population of 51. Took in 8 inmates last week, 4 were repeaters, and 14 were released. Received an email yesterday from Executive Director Miller from the New Hampshire Association of Counties regarding the, there was a hearing on the authority of the superintendents scheduled at committee level yesterday. A couple of the superintendents were present, did an outstanding job in their presentation. She did talk to some of the committee members after the hearing and felt as though they have a lot of support to move the bill through the House. So at that point, I guess, once it passes the House, then it'll go on to the Senate and take effect after passage. The work group that I spoke of last week regarding the authority of correctional officers, county corrections officers being recognized as ex officio constables. There was a work group that was created out of that meeting from the Sheriff's Association. They met last week. They've drafted an LSR, and it's created as an enabling act, which would allow the county commissioners to establish a transport and custody force and granted limited powers as ex officio constables. And then, as part of that, the commissioners will be required to have a written policy on the roles and responsibilities of the transporting officers. So that's something that's a work in progress.
Right. I want to explain that a little more. Transporting officers
would be granted ex officio constable powers, limited in that corrections officers would have the powers of arrest in a couple of instances. There's
while they're transporting people, is that it?
correct. While they're transporting, if they have any interaction, say we're doing a hospital detail and the family members of the inmate attempt to try to contact the inmate while they're in the hospital and they're told to stay away, they would be able to take those folks into custody for interference. Okay. And that's where those powers would come into play.
So the commissioners have to write up a policy as to what the correctional officer can do and can't do?
Correct. Right. And that's once the bill passes. This is, we're still in its...
Why wouldn't you, the superintendent, write up the...
We could request that.
And you know far more about transporting prisoners than I know. Mm-hmm. And I would think it would be the superintendents that want the legislation would write up what the requirements are.
Sure, that's I think how it would
and
play out at
it
the
also
end.
sounds to me, Jason, like it's almost a third police force that you're developing here.
That's what the concern.
Why don't you just jeopardize or do whatever you have to do to the correctional officer that's doing the transport?
Mm-hmm. That was a concern from the Sheriff's Association, that we were trying to create a third police force. Some of the reservation from some of the sheriffs is that if they deputize a CO, the CO becomes the responsibility of the sheriff and not the superintendent. So there was some reservations there. So it's all being worked out. And the comments that I've saw from some of the superintendents was that it seems like it's moving forward in a positive state.
So in that scenario you just gave us, if a family was interfering, the transporting officer now has to call the sheriff or a policeman to come in and arrest them?
Correct.
They don't have the power to do that?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they would take them into custody then? And what would they do with them?
The officer that is called in, yes, they would eventually, if it led to a point where it had to be an arrest situation, then they would take them into custody and move them through the criminal justice system. Either bring them back to the PD, process and bail them, bring them to the jail, process and bail them. There's a number of different ways it could be handled.
What is your feeling? Do you need it?
I think, it's something that.
Do you need those powers?
Absolutely. Yep.
So they would get the ability to arrest. What else?
That's it. It would be, we would be able to take inmates into custody that have escaped from our facility. That's already in the statute. It just defines.
Excuse me, you mean to tell me if somebody escapes, you're the correctional officer, you can't go get them?
We can, but we don't have the power, the ability to arrest them. We have the power to detain them and bring them back to the facility,
okay.
But we can't bring additional new charges.
Okay.
Yep.
What else?
That's it. As far as those powers are concerned. Those are the only limited, and those powers are only while the officer is in the performance of their official duties. So at the end of the day.
By deputizing these correctional officers, theoretically, somehow they become the employee of the sheriff's department?
Right, and then you'd have to move them through the, I want to say it's the 200-hour training program to become a part-time deputy, and that would go through police standards and training.
So why can't you draft legislation that just says that you have the power to arrest an offending inmate?
That's what's being worked on. But as far as, then you're only limiting to the inmate themselves. So again, taking a third party into consideration,
Okay.
we wouldn't have the ability to do that.
Okay.
This is strictly in regards to transporting.
Yes, sir.
If somebody, if somebody went to the jail building and was pounding on the windows or something, and the correctional officer went out there, they could arrest them?
As in moving forward in the way that the legislation is being drafted, then as I understand it, as long as they meet the standards that we set and have been trained in the methods that we set, then yes.
So it's not only just transporting, it's
It would be
anything
security of the
dealing with the
grounds.
jail.
Right. I'll keep you informed as the work group continues.
Okay.
And then I forgot to mention last week, you asked me to follow up with Superintendent Libby and ask why inmates weren't allowed to work in the nursing home in Grafton County.
Right.
I did follow up with him, and it was a rule that the former administrator, the nursing home administrator had, and he just hasn't talked to the new administrator about it.
Did he give you any reasons, or it was just an administrator's rule?
It was the administrator's rule.
How will you be thinking about it when you come on as to, are there any legalities at the nursing home as far as inmates being used inside the nursing home? Think about it. Okay.
That's all I had.
That's all you have? Okay, do we have any questions for
Jason, I gotta talk to you today. We got a letter from an inmate. I want to talk to you about it.
Okay.
Nothing bad. It's
Okay.
just a suggestion by the young man.
Okay. Do you want to come down to my office, or you want me to come back up here?
No, I'll come down.
Okay. All right, thank
Or
you.
I'll call you up,
Okay.
either one. It's not a big deal, but,
Okay.
they take the time to write the letter. We owe them the courtesy of responding in one way or another.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, Howie.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I can address that last question if you like.
Go ahead.
Is research that the state through the Health and Human Services does not allow, except by exception, inmates or anybody who cannot pass essentially the same requirements for staff. That exception is not hard to come by. So it's just a matter of making a request to the Health and Human Services for a waiver, and that is not unreasonably withheld.
When you say they have to be equal to the staff, or what's involved in training then?
Well, in terms of staff, we can't hire anybody, unless we get a waiver, who has any kind of a criminal record that involves any kind of neglect, abuse, or assault. They're not eligible to work in a nursing facility unless there's a waiver. The typical waiver would be you have somebody who's 50 years old applying, and their record goes back to when they were 18. And then you'd go to the state and say, this is a waiver. It's an excellent candidate, and we have confidence. And actually, the state has to review that waiver each year. What we would be looking at Mountain View, if we were working with Jason, is, well, with due diligence, we'd want to see who it is that he'd be proposing, what their actual record is, to be sure that we have confidence, and then make that waiver to the state.
You have to do that on an individual basis?
On an individual basis.
Howie, is that by rule or by statute?
That is by administrative rule, as far as I, well, no, whether or not the guiding statute says that nobody with a record can work in a nursing home, that might be statute, but I believe it's administrative rule that allows Health and Human Services to grant waivers for cause. My understanding is, and I'm going to guess at this, that it's something less than half of the other county homes do use inmate labor. Some are adamant that while they can and have in the past, that the aggravation factor was greater than the benefit.
What they were.
Others use it consistently and find it to be of great help. And some would maintain it helps control costs. Most will say that if you do it, it doesn't control costs. It can be a good thing to do, but it's not likely to generate savings because of the increased supervision in training. Typically, you're going to have somebody for 6 months or less. It's typically going to be somebody who's already sentenced to 1 year or less, and you're not going to be day one of their sentence. So it's going to be relatively short term, but there are some inmates that could have some good skills. It's also a good training environment. So to the degree that we can help the House of Corrections, they want to stand willing to do so.
When you get right down to it, it comes down to the individual that's going to work in the facility.
It's almost like hiring a staff member. They would need to be interviewed, and I'm sure Jason wouldn't propose anybody that wouldn't be appropriate. But at that point, I would then ask for a waiver from Health and Human Services, and they're actually very good about doing that. So it's not a complicated process, but it's enough for essentially what they're saying is we're waiving this rule. You better be careful.
Is it a excuse me? Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Is there a long time lapse between when you send in the request for a waiver and when you get it?
The state's remarkable. In these days with email, it can be virtually the same day. It's essentially getting the blessing of one person, and she's actually very good. She just wants it in writing.
And what do you have to send? Record of the inmate, or do you just say we have a candidate that's living in the House of Correction that we would like to have work here? My
experience has been, because in the past I've hired a number of people who have had records, is just explaining to her that we're aware of this record and this is why we think that this exception is justified.
Okay.
And I've never been turned down, and based on my discussions with the other county homes, this is even a more supervised setting, because it's not only just my recommendation, it's the recommendation of the superintendent of the House of Corrections, and it's in a very supervised, it'll also be with proper appropriate supervision.
That's what bothers me a little bit, depending on where this inmate may be working. If they're working in the kitchen, then you have to have somebody in the kitchen that has gone through the training to supervise inmates. If they're working in housekeeping, somebody in housekeeping is going to have to be trained. If they're working in maintenance, and somebody there has to be trained.
We would be looking at
it's in-house training, but still, it's time-consuming, and whether it's all worth it or not.
We would probably only start by looking at the kitchen, largely because Rob is very interested in it, and quite frankly, it is a non-resident contact area.
Yeah.
So in terms of my case to the state, that's going to be top of the report. This is a supervised non-resident contact area. Housekeeping, where somebody conceivably could be in a, that's different. That's opening up the specter of something going wrong.
Yeah.
quite frankly, in terms of, and I shouldn't speak for Jason, but the idea of people that are going to be released getting experience in food service is oftentimes where they're more likely to find jobs. So that as a way of trying to reduce recidivism, if we associate being employed with lowering the likelihood of somebody committing a crime, it could be helpful in that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you, Howie, in your experience working in these, in the nursing home industry, in the private sector, have you had experience with any of those homes taking work release people, or however it would work on that basis?
They seldom do, because it's more work than worth. You need to have a waiver, and when there's other people, and quite frankly, people, well, it's a fact of the matter that many people with records aren't always your most dependable, long-staying employees, and so that nursing home, hospital are not places where you typically find anybody because of fear of resident abuse.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sure you got something else to report.
I got a few things for you. A couple of little things that came up at this morning's morning meeting. One is an invitation to all of you to be able to attend our monthly coffees. There's a lot of interest on the part of our residents in meeting you, but an interesting suggestion came up this morning, and that would be, our residents don't know you, and I'm not sure what your policy or practice has been, but having the photographs of the sitting commissioners to be able to be on display at Mountain View would be helpful to residents, and I do know that it's common in some counties to have such photographs displayed. But so I would say
that
that
6 by 12.
Well, no, the size would be up to you. But I would endorse that suggestion because I think it is fitting. And
more importantly, when is this coffee?
Well, it's right now. It's not on a fixed schedule. I think there's going to be, so it's not helpful at all. So I'll get back to you because, well, we're experimenting. We did it as an experiment during Christmas, and it went over very well. The thought in the discussion today was, well, it's so open-ended because it's kind of like from 10 to 12. It doesn't create the opportunity to meet and greet the three of you. So part of the thought was, depending on what would work best for your schedule, we were thinking that the best time might be if you knew when you were coming out. I'm not sure that you ever know when your weekly meetings are going to be over, but if it worked out to whatever's convenient for you, which we assumed might be after a weekly meeting, so that we could actually be flexible enough to work around what's good for all of you, if you're interested.
I think
it's important.
Yeah, last Wednesday the DON talked with me about it. I thought it was the staff and not the residents.
Well, it's both.
Okay.
The coffee actually brings together staff and residents.
Yeah, because the staff doesn't know the three commissioners, basically.
And they don't. And I think this is a great time.
I guess I was walking around over there Wednesday afternoon, and apparently somebody must have talked to the DON and said, I don't know who this guy was walking around, so.
Well, and that's somebody being
where it started. I don't know.
That's somebody being suitably protected, but we want you to be around because we're proud of what we do, and we, even if it came to a matter of disagreement, we want to be disagreeing about the same thing and not what you think it is or how I'm representing it to be. So the more that you're able to be there, the better.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I mean, you're here for 12 years. You'll be walking around for 12 years.
Well, but the residents have your respect, the staff have your respect, but to the degree they have knowledge of who you are, it's a good thing.
It is a good thing, yes.
And I think coming from a period, over the last few years with a role and relationship hasn't always been the easiest because of situations. Now that we are seemingly situation free, this is a good time to build on a positive note.
I think go ahead and try to set that up.
Okay, would you like it on a Wednesday?
Yes.
Following
sure,
meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
good.
I see a problem with that.
You do?
Wednesday after the meeting, sometimes our meetings are through at 10:30, sometimes our meetings are through at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Well,
We don't
sometimes
want
we
the
don't go
public
there.
coming and have to say, go take a break for 2 hours while we go over to the nursing home. I'd almost think maybe a better way to do it was set up a time before a meeting. Have a late start on a Wednesday meeting,
Could do that.
and then we're here, go over there and come back here, gotta be back here at 9:30 to start the meeting instead of 8:30.
Good suggestion. Yeah. Okay.
I do have one, it's actually this is a replacement memo on encumbered funds. Apparently Lisa doesn't know where the original went, so she produced another one. This is coming out of therapy for 2 iPads that requires a signature for us to go forward with 2012 funds on that. It had been presented some.
2012.
Correct, out of a 2012 budget. And requested by, these are 2 iPads that allow therapy to communicate with those that have difficulty using language. It essentially takes the place of what used to be the old-fashioned chalkboard drawing a picture, and then that got replaced with pictures. An iPad makes it much easier to customize to an individual resident who has difficulty or inability to use speech. And the other thing that I have for you is the long-awaited draft of a revised admission policy, where and I'm not sure that you want to take action or review it, whether you want to read it and save it for a later day or not.
Because we talked about that.
Need it in non-public?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you want to react to that?
Howie, why do you need iPads?
iPad in the old days when you were sitting down with a resident who couldn't communicate, but who's aware. It's a matter of you would keep asking, do you want water, coffee, milk, tea? And then that was replaced by a chalkboard, and then by a picture board. But all that was a little bit generic. With an iPad, it can actually be customized so the individual thinks, not only do you want me to call somebody, but you can have all the pictures and photographs of who do you want to call, whether that's sister, husband, daughter, or nephew. So it allows people who can't otherwise communicate to be able to communicate. It's one of the more frustrating things to ever see is somebody who's trapped in their bodies, who have awareness but inability to communicate.
So it wouldn't be used for, to replace a computer that it isn't going to go into somebody's office and sit there. It's going to be used for.
This is therapy.
For therapy.
Yeah, this Pamela Grass is our director of therapy, so this is actually only going to be used within the therapy department.
Then why don't you ask for one and see how that works?
Well, one would be a help. 2 would meet the needs of what we have, but here again, one is a step in the right direction.
Well, you can always go out and buy a second next week if you find out it's working, but
well, quite
if
frankly,
you buy 2 and you don't use them, you can't take them back.
Well, what Pam was thinking when she put this request together,
Funded funds for 2012.
they had unexpended, they had been very careful throughout the whole year about not spending money, wondering if something might happen or sometimes they have to buy equipment at the last minute because of a special need. So this, essentially what she's saying is, they were very good with their budget all year. This doesn't even use up all of it, and it was to take it out of last year's budget. And there is an immediate need for 2, but you're right. One would be better than none.
But there is a definite need for 2.
There is. Oftentimes we have the building being so large. The idea is to take this to the person, and you get people going down to the shore on one end and Shakoro on the other, and it could be a long time waiting for something.
Is that the only department that requested iPads? Are there other more iPads there?
No, there are no other iPads. Someday, I really hope we get to the point, probably not with iPads, but with tablets, less expensive tablets, to be able to, for our aides and nurses to be able to have that contact time right with a resident in their own room and go wireless. So that I think is in the future somewhere. But right now we have no other tablets. Now therapy, to their credit, for managing the Medicare components, they use iPods, which are the size of a phone, and they use that wirelessly. They're actually the most technically sophisticated in the entire place. That's actually not Mountain View. That's Genesis that provides those iPods. And so they do all their tracking, all their billing, but they can't do any therapy with the screens that are it's tiny screens.
I guess I still don't understand the need for it.
Well, right now, when we're sitting down with somebody who can't talk, has an aphasia of some kind, we're essentially oftentimes playing 20 questions. What do you want? And we can have picture boards, and we can write things, but it's essentially frustrating for the therapist, frustrating for the person. With the iPad, we can generate all kinds of customized things just for that person, so that we can know what Mr. Jones, whether it's what he wants to eat, by actually showing pictures of things to eat or names.
Okay.
So it's
Gotcha.
it's essentially a communication tool.
And what are they using now again?
It's really kind of like a picture board. It started out as a chalkboard. Now it has pictures, house, food. What do you want to eat? Juice, whatever, and that helps. But electronically you can do so much more, and you can keep it very customized.
Can these people that can't communicate, can these poor souls still read, so that if it were a dish of ice cream, it might look like a dish of bread pudding, that they could say ice cream?
Well, they can't say, but if you put a picture of ice cream or fruit, they can pick one or the other. And so it's a matter of customizing those menus, which is easy digitally, a little difficult with pictures.
Are there applications
There are.
for your industry already available?
Already available.
So what do they cost?
Some of them are very nominal, some of them are free. It's like the apps that you download onto your iPhone. Because it's, as far as a computer goes, it's actually very simple type of technology. So Pam is comfortable that she'll be able to get this, whatever software, it's actually an application, would be free. That's the real reason for using an iPad rather than some other tablets, because the software is readily available and oftentimes free for an iPad, where it hasn't been it's not quite as readily available for the Android and other bases.
Will you have time or the availability, with these iPads, for your $100 protection plan, you get a 2-3 hour class on operating your iPad, which people tell me are very good. I haven't gone to mine yet, but it's very good. Are you going to be able to send someone to learn to be interesting?
Well, these gals they're all gals, are already very proficient. Some have their own, but they all have the iPods. So they're all wonderfully adept using these tiny little screens. Yep. So this will be much larger. So all the people that we have in the place, these are the people that are actually dressed and ready to use these right out of the box.
Okay, your motion?
I'll make a motion that we use the encumbered funds to purchase 2. Are they going to be iPad 4 or 5, or for $3.99? They're an older version.
These are the older version. We don't need the fancy resolution screen.
Okay.
So this is the less expensive.
I make a motion that we purchase 2 based on the figures that we received on January 22nd from Lisa Howard's quote.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion on it?
Yeah, can we add them? I'd like a report back in maybe three months, how they're working.
And if you're agreeable, maybe even a demonstration.
That'd be even better.
So what is the price? Is it $3.99?
$3.99 each. All those in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. Then so voted.
Howie, I think that we need to have a very short, non-public session with you if we can, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
You want to do that now or later or what?
9:15. We'll do it.
I can't see it taking more than 10 minutes.
Here we go.
Yeah, we can do that now if you want to.
You know, we could get downstairs and make a telephone call at the same time.
Well, we got a lot of people
okay.
waiting here.
Okay.
I can come back.
Maybe that'd be better.
You come back. We got people
We'll
waiting.
call you
So
out.
Do you want me to wait, or do you want me to wait for a call, or come back at a
We'll
time
call.
certain?
we'll call you.
Okay.
Can members of the public get a copy of the new admission policy?
The what?
The proposed admission policy, can members of the public get one?
You got an extra copy?
I do. And with your permission, I'd be glad to.
Keep in mind, this is the draft. It hasn't been approved.
Understood. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Okay, Will? Since you're responsible for the sheriff, you need to go back to Riccardi. You may want to comment on it.
Morning.
Good morning.
I just have a couple quick things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we have trying to put together some shop work. It's pretty chilly out there to have the guys out right now. So we got the little tractor in the shop. We need to pull the radiator and have it sent out to be fixed. We've had problems with that for the last year or so. It really got worse this summer, and we've milked it along and did the best we can, but it needs to be taken out and sent out to have it rebuilt so we can stop the leaks.
When you say little tractor, the
That-
smaller or the two big ones?
Right, 25, the 2520.
Okay.
So that's something we want to have done so that this summer. We generally don't have a problem this time of the year, obviously running the wood processor. It's in the summertime when it gets hot, and we're doing a lot of tedding and raking with it that we have the problems. We got the delivery truck inside the shop. We're sanding off the rust and repainting the dump body. We've gotten on a schedule of doing that pretty much every other winter, just to keep it in good shape. That was a very expensive piece of machinery we bought. The paint is very minimal cost to do that, and it gives the guys something to work on in the cold inside to be doing. We had a propane issue one night last week, I believe it was. The maintenance guys thought they heard the regulator blowing off behind the new nursing home, so I responded. They said they smelled propane and everything else. I responded, called Eastern Propane. Within minutes, he called me back. He's a very, very good tech that does that. Talked with him. He had me do some tests, and then he came. We determined everything was fine by the time I got up here. I didn't smell anything, didn't have any problems. Listened to it, did some tests with him on the phone, determined that we should be okay, just keep an eye on it. We did. He came up first thing the next morning, checked it all out. Didn't see what happened, really. We don't really know what happened. Everything's been fine. We've been checking on it since, haven't had a problem. So it might have just been something got on one of the seals in the regulator there, and it blew off, and it was good to go after that. Don't really know what the determination was, but everything seems to be good. And then you asked me last time we met about the house up the street.
Right.
Mr. Allen's house, it is metered, and he does pay his water bills and everything up there. His curb stop is actually right here at this building, so his line runs from this building all the way down to his house.
Right, okay. I would hope that you get your plow trucks in and wash them off.
Yes.
Periodically.
Yep.
Especially the sander.
Yes. Yep. A week and a half ago, we had them in washed and waxed. And again, they'll probably have them in at the end of this week or the beginning of next week once they get the painting done of the other truck and open up a bay.
Okay. Are you using any inmates?
Yes.
Inside?
Yes.
Doing the work?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody any questions for Will?
Does Billy Allen's water, is it intercepted coming down from the well, or does it come over here and then we get a line that goes back up the road to his house?
There's right outside the front out here by the hydrant when you drive in on this side.
Tees off to his house?
It tees off to his house from there, and that's where his curb. That's basically where his curb stop is. So just like anybody else, they're responsible from the curb stop to their home on any of our lines and our customers. That's their responsibility. He just has an extra long line on his responsibility.
Any other questions? If not, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
We put you on, Robin, next.
I just have a quick,
Okay.
quick two things. I've had a couple of volunteers come in. Our filing situation was sort of at a crisis level. So I've asked two retired women that I know. One was a volunteer over at the probate court. She did the guardianship monitoring program, and that program went away. So she's somewhat familiar with the court system, and a retired circuit court clerk. They're both coming in on separate days to do filing for us, which is a great help.
Just volunteering or
volunteering?
Volunteering.
So I thought about, this is great. They've already volunteered close to 20 hours of work in the office. And so what I'm asking you is to let them at least, if they're here during the lunch hour, to go over to the nursing home and be able to get a lunch for no cost. I had spoken with Commissioner Babson about it, and he suggested we do up a little badge. And I haven't talked to Rob about it yet, but they've really it's been a real benefit to my office to have this done. We were going to court with some of the documents not in files, so it was not good, and they've been a great help. So I thought maybe that would be a nice benefit for them.
You want to speak to that?
Oh, I agreed with her. We talked about having one hanging around her neck, and that made, that would make the person feel out of place. This way, she can just pull it out of her pocket, show the cashier, and take her meal.
Okay.
And I think when they're coming over here and volunteering, it's a very nice gesture. Too bad we can't get more people.
You have any comments?
I think it's okay to donate the time and work and in return they get a free lunch. That seems right.
Okay.
And I'm closing in on hiring an attorney. I mean, this time around, the applicants have been terrific. I mean, it's going to be a difficult choice because everybody has really got good qualifications.
Okay. Asher, Commissioner Kenny is sort of looking after the Sheriff's Department in County Attorney's Office, so she might want to be involved in the interviewing process or whatever.
It's done.
Just as a sideline information type thing. Okay. Go ahead.
Ask Robin a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Robin, in signing the bills this week, your department had a couple of files for a substantial amount of money, vertical files. What are they for?
All of the case files. What was happening in the last 2 years, the files were being put on the wall, and they didn't belong to anyone. They weren't, although they were, I'm not sure what the process was, but I asked to have 3 file cabinets purchased to be put in each attorney's office. So the files are there, we know where they are, they know they're responsible for them, and it just is a lot more organized.
Well, I could be wrong, but I think the bill was just for 2 files. And it was $1,400. Are they something special, or?
I'll check on that, because I
could be wrong, but I'm...
Yeah.
They're the ones that arrived last Wednesday that were in the elevator when we went down.
I didn't even notice them. Yeah, you're right, they were.
Yeah, I don't know how many there were, but...
3.
3?
Okay.
Okay.
But I'll check on the price.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else?
Nope, that's great, thank you.
Okay. Sheriff, do you have something?
No, just updated information I gave you last week. There it is, past week's numbers.
I have a good question for that free meal. Are we going to make a motion and second it?
You want to do that?
No, I'm just asking.
You want to make a motion that we approve?
Is it just okay? Just
volunteer.
I'll make a motion that we offer a free lunch to people that come to the county attorney's office and volunteer their time to file.
This is strictly for county attorney's office?
Yes, we might as well narrow it down as much as possible.
Okay. I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And so voted. Here's an extra copy.
And then before I forget, if there is a moment for non-public later today.
You got something for non-public? Okay.
Take maybe 2 minutes.
Okay. Tell us.
Numbers are, I believe, slightly increased, but the one that in dispatch it says detail, safe commute, local PD. What that is the highway safety grants that the local PDs have gotten and use our dispatch. Obviously, it creates more calls for motor vehicle stops. So that's the one that might stick out the most for you.
Which one are you talking about? This one on calls for service?
Calls for service for communications.
Which one?
The lengthier one.
The length one, okay. And what is the line item we're looking at?
Detail, safe commute, local
Okay.
PD.
I get a question, Dominic.
Go ahead.
Why do alarm intrusions come to you and not to the local police station?
Well, they're actually, they go into...
Or do they go to both?
No, they go into us, if different ones have them set up with us. But mostly they go into the private alarm companies. Then those alarm companies contact us.
Oh, okay, so this isn't the...
It's like Pope
This isn't
Security.
the alarm going off in somebody's house on
No,
Lake
no.
Ossipee, and it
Right.
comes here, it goes to the alarm company first, and
Yes.
they're suspicious, so they call you.
Right, it's automatic. They call our law enforcement. Right, and Conway would get their own and vice versa.
When there's a motor vehicle accident, let's say out here on 16, who responds to that?
If it's in Ossipee, initially Ossipee PD would be contacted. If they're unavailable, then it would most likely go to us. If we don't have anyone, the state police would be the next one.
Okay, let's say the town of Eaton.
Town of Eaton,
What happens there?
we're the initial response if it's coming into us, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And if we don't have anyone available, then we would reach out to the state police.
So the authority is wherever it's located?
Yes, yeah, jurisdiction wise, yeah.
Okay.
Don? Sheriff, on the OHRV, does that include snowmobiles, or is that just four-wheelers?
No, that would probably include snowmobile.
Any off-road
Yeah,
vehicle?
yeah.
Okay.
How do you handle the domestic animal complaint? So you get the call and you call the local dog officer?
Right, right. We get the
They
call.
take care of it?
Yes, yeah. Yeah. I know Effingham, Freedom, Madison share the same animal control officer. Ossipee
Yeah.
has one.
No, we don't.
Used to.
Used to.
You don't any longer?
No.
So that would, the PD would be responsible then.
Can you, would it be a big imposition to every once in a while break down the number of, where the calls are coming from the animal complaints? I don't think
No,
it's fair if
we
Ossipee
can-
doesn't have one and we get nine of the calls. That's not fair.
What do you mean it's not fair?
They're still gonna get the calls.
Unless the county shouldn't be paying for our animal control. We don't want one. The other towns have,
Well, you'll have to put someone in place. Because who's gonna handle them if Ossipee Police Department doesn't?
As far as I know, the police department's doing it now.
Yes,
As a result of some,
right. Most animal control officers are umbrellaed under the police departments. They're part of it, basically. They're not sworn officers usually, but
okay. There's no RSA that says you have to have an animal control officer, is there?
well, there's laws on the book that cover animal control. as
Yes,
far
I
as
know that,
domestic
but there's
animals.
none that specifically say each town or municipality has to have a
That I'm
animal
not
control
sure of.
officer. I don't believe so.
I'm not sure. I know the North Country is basically covered by one person. Betty Holmes has covered that for years for many towns up there.
Wow.
Does each town
And she's-
participate with her salary or her?
I believe so,
cost?
yes, yeah. I think the vehicle she uses is part of that.
Mhm. There's untimely deaths. I think I asked the question last week. How do you get called in? Do you get called in from the sheriff's department when there's an untimely death?
Yes, yeah. Or,
And then you decide whether an autopsy is to be done or not?
yes. The short answer, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, there would have to be extenuating circumstances for that to really happen.
Who determines that?
Well, the officers on scene usually will notify the county attorney as far as any suspicions. And then most likely, the county attorney or her representative would come out to the scene along with the medical examiner. And
If there's going to be a criminal proceeding, or if there's any question about the cause of death, and if there's any criminal implications, we order an autopsy.
Okay. And that's done by the state. Okay, anybody else got any questions? If not, thank you. I read a letter earlier this morning regarding someone who would like to have a police officer in here at all times. We didn't make a decision on that, but if you have some input on it, is it going to be a costly item, and is it to protect the citizens that are in this meeting?
yes,
We had it
Mr.
before, but
I think that's something of more discussions needed. I can certainly give you my input,
Okay.
put something together.
I have a comment. A couple of weeks ago, the sheriff already mentioned that he was going to attend the meetings, so I don't know why we need to have an extra police officer coming to the meetings.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
You make that statement.
for an extra one. Certainly if I'm here, I would hope I'm capable to
yeah.
handle that, but if there is no one here, and if that's the decision the commission makes, then obviously we'd have to supply someone, so. And that would obviously tie up someone for that time period.
Mhm.
There usually is someone in the building, so, but that's a decision, again,
Right,
it's up to you if you want someone personally in this room
Yeah.
during the meeting.
Okay, I think I'd have to go back and look. I know we had a problem over at the nursing home at one time with somebody threatening to bring a gun in. And I have to go back and look at the policy as to what we decided at that point in time. I think we restricted it, that no weapons could be brought into the nursing home, but that may not apply now. So I think we got to go back and revisit that.
Yeah, again, I think I can, I'll research it and then come up with a,
Yeah.
input to you.
In that particular case, we had inmates that were working in a nursing home.
Yep.
So that could have been a little different situation. But, okay.
That was an individual that said he'd shoot an inmate.
If he went into his mother's
jail,
room.
and his mother was in the.
Yeah. Okay. Got anything else for us?
I think that's it for now, and
Okay.
give me a call.
Ed, you got a question?
Yes. Because we're discussing the letter that you received this morning, now I just read it again. If you look at the first sentence of this letter that was sent to us, it says, whereby New Hampshire law permits and the Carroll County Commissioners therefore allow armed citizens to enter the county administration building. The letter's not actually correct because law doesn't permit it. The United States and the state constitution permits it. Is an unalienable right to bear arms. And there's a concerted effort in this state at this point because of the media to roll back some of the rights we have. And I just want to remind you as commissioners, as an attorney, and the sheriff who swore an oath to uphold the state constitution, is that you cannot write a law or a policy to restrict where anybody is legally allowed to be to not have a firearm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else?
No. I'll look at that research, and then
Yeah.
again, if you want to contact me for non-public session
Okay.
when you're ready.
Well, we're almost there, actually.
So I can hang it.
Yeah, we'll call you.
Thank you.
So you,
You have any further questions?
excuse me, so you're going to add to the agenda non-public session?
Yeah. You had something non-public?
No,
No?
no, I just wanted to respond to the question about the file cabinets.
Oh, go ahead.
We had ordered 3. They were $482.99 each, 5-drawer, legal size. We checked with 3 different vendors, and one was the least expensive. We went with Staples, WB Mason, and Office Max. There was some online, but we didn't recognize the websites. That's someone we've used in the past. We got Hahn, which is the best quality. We've had other types in the past, and the drawers stick once they get full files. We've swapped out, in fact, Robin Reed had one, but we swapped a smaller file cabinet for her legal size one at one point. So we've tried to scrounge as best we can, but we came down to it. This was the best price for the 5-drawer legal size.
Good.
Okay?
Good,
And
thank
I
you.
was assured that the lady that purchases for you treats the money in that department as if it was her own.
She does.
So I wasn't really worried. I was just wondering whether they were different size, different shape, because
I guess most are 4-drawer, and so these are 5.
oh, it's 5-drawer.
Right.
Okay.
And they'll last us 40, 50 years. They'll be good.
Do you remember who wanted non-public?
Yep, thank you.
Do you remember who wanted non-public?
Non-public, Howard Chandler and the sheriff.
Howie? That's
Howard
Howie.
and the sheriff.
Okay. All right, I guess we're at the point then to open it up for the public.
Yep.
We have some visitors today. Are you here for a particular reason that you want to speak?
No, sir, I have nothing for the board today.
Okay, very good, thank you. I'll open it up for a public discussion if anybody's got anything they want to raise, questions about. Yes, Ed?
Do the nursing home residents have the ability to watch these meetings? Is there cable over there? And does Channel 3, what coverage?
They have TVs, I'm sure they could.
Each neighborhood has its own big TV, Ed, so I'm
Yeah.
sure that and we have Time Warner over there, we're paying, so I'm sure they have the,
But do you get North Conway's?
no, that's the other
Not, so
problem.
you
We don't have whatever it is, the local access channel that you have to have.
For a small nominal fee, I could offer a disc of this meeting to the nursing home, because since the residents are the recipients of the nursing home and their lifestyle, then it would be good for them to watch these meetings.
I think it's probably up to the residents to do that. I know at one time, if they wanted a TV in their room, they paid for the connection. Maybe true for telephone too, I'm not sure. But we can check on it.
Is there a DVD player on some of those TVs they have in there? Like, do
I
they
don't
watch
know.
movies and stuff?
I don't know. We should have asked that of Howie.
Because we should set up a time where somebody could bring a disc and pop it in the machine and have that be an event to watch the commissioners' meetings.
Sure.
We gonna get some kind of retainer if you get paid for this event that's gonna happen at the nursing home?
Maybe, we can talk about it, it's negotiable.
Ed, what is your idea of a slight fee?
$25?
Per disc.
Sure. If I was able to figure out how to get the disc transmitted on the local cable system, I don't know what covers this area, then they could watch it on there.
My house is Time Warner, I think it's pretty much Time Warner.
But I don't know where
But you have to have some kind of a committee or group or something set up in each community, I believe, to handle the local access, and we don't have it in Ossipee. We're trying to get it, but we haven't been very successful.
Okay, thank you.
You don't have a local access channel?
No?
None whatsoever?
No. I don't believe, Steve, I don't know that much about it, but I know that the town has to pay in or do something in order to get the local access on your cable, and we don't have it here in Ossipee.
I know that's part of our contract, that they provide us with a local access channel.
It's true for Conway, I believe.
But there's another, you have to have a committee to do it, or something within the town to handle that, and we don't have that in Ossipee.
Okay, any
Excuse me,
further?
Dave, that might raise a further question here. This is a county complex. Could they, I wonder, whatever the system is you have to have in order to get local access, could we set it up ourselves within the county so that it would be available just to the county?
That's for Mr. Rich.
Yes, John, I would think. Just a thought.
Okay. Okay, anybody else, any public comment? If not, then we will go into a work session and let's review the policy manual.
Shouldn't we have Jan in here for doing that?
Yeah.
Where are we going to do the phone call for the attorney?
Before
11:15.
11:15?
Something like that?
Yeah, before 11:15. Yeah. So if we can get through the first items there.
Want me to go get Jan?
No, Janice is coming.
I will.
Oh, you were gonna bring up, we didn't bring up about the laundry.
About the laundry?
Laundry bid.
All right. Well, it's an estimate too. We need to get some more. Okay, we'll wait a couple minutes for Commissioner Kenny to get back.
Another question. When you got the minutes from last, didn't review the minutes from last week.
Oh, we haven't done it yet.
We didn't do the minutes yet.
All right. You had a chance to read the minutes.
Yes, I have.
Got corrections?
Well, you know, I read them the other night, and then I read them again this morning, and there was one I thought was a pretty clear omission or correction that needed to be made, and now I can't find it in today's copy, so. As far as I know, as far as I'm concerned, they're okay. It was just a duplication or a repeat of a word. It wasn't
Nothing major.
Nothing major.
While we're waiting, in last week's minutes, Commissioner Babson made a motion to direct you to put a memo out to all department heads regarding any investigations or any communications regarding an investigation or questions that if it's going to be recorded, then people involved have to be notified that it's being recorded. Do you have any comments on that?
I do. Just two things. First, my title, it's Human Resources, not Human Services. But the second thing is...
That's what the error was. That's what I noticed.
And the second thing is, in the law itself that concerns this particular subject matter, there are exceptions. Police action and so forth. County Attorney's Office may fall under that exception. Sheriff's Office would fall under that exception. That during interrogations and so forth, they do tape private meetings, and that is allowable under the statute. But what I would prefer to do is just put out the entire statute so that there's no question, so that all the exceptions are there. I'll include it in the reference guide. Basically, what we're trying to say is that New Hampshire is one of 11 states that does not allow the private recording or the recording of a private meeting or a private conversation without the consent, the knowledge and consent of all parties to that conversation.
Why can't you, I mean, that's perfect. Why can't you just put that, what you
Because
just said?
there are exceptions.
Less those exceptions allowed by state law.
That's what she said. She said she would do that and put that into the...
But rather than have the whole printout, David, that's going to take 3 or 4 more pages.
Is it that
said
long?
was perfect. Just add that.
I can do that.
Add whatever, you're the lawyer.
I just don't want to confuse anybody because public meetings can certainly be taped without everybody's consent. But it's private conversations, whether they're telephonic or in person. All parties have to not only acknowledge, be advised that they're being audio taped or videotaped, but they have to provide their consent as well. And there are criminal penalties for doing so without that. So, yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, this handbook has so many pages, I can't see adding 3 or 4 more.
It won't, once they're double-sided copies.
Oh, okay, that's true.
It'll be much smaller. And it's not, as I've said before, it's not intended to address every possible scenario that's out there. It's, everything that's in here is either an RSA or settled case law. And it has been reviewed in parts by Liz Bailey, by Primex in its entirety. Mike Ricker went through it. I have pulled pieces out of different employment law seminars that I've been to, as well as prior handbooks that I've drafted. So everything that's in here can stand up to scrutiny.
I think maybe a smoking policy probably ought to be in there, but I think we need to review that.
Okay. And this is a fluid document. We can add things, you know, as things change, as laws update.
The problem I have with the smoking policy, which states that all employees will, when they have a break time, would go out and smoke in their vehicle. that only concentrates the smoke in the vehicle, so I'd like to revisit that and maybe put in there a certain distance from our public buildings where smoking is allowed, or designated areas or whatever. So I think we need to revisit that one. Okay.
Did you, by chance, did the commission address the letter that was sent to the board? It was requested that the name not be used, but I don't know if you were given.
That's the one from the guns.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Okay. We gave that to the sheriff also, and we didn't make any decision on that today.
Okay.
All right, we're ready to go through section 1, human resources. Anybody have a problem with page 3, human resource policy statement?
No.
No problem?
No.
Okay.
4 is the first page I have a comment.
All right, page 4, personal records, access policy.
Yeah, on the policy, the last sentence, I've had some discussion with somebody else that writes a lot of grants, and we've been going around and around, but I still think that I'm correct. So, a reasonable opportunity to inspect or make copies of items in their personal record. Or is either or. It's one or the other. It should and or.
Yeah.
Would you like to
Well, is it
send a note
either
to my
or
friend?
and or?
Actually, this is a direct quote from the RSA, so they need to amend theirs, but I have no problem putting and/or.
I mean, I can't see it happening, but if you do get somebody that wants to be really fussy, then say, okay, you got your copies or you looked at it, you can't have both.
Right.
Which leads me also, when we're talking about copies available, we need to come up with a cost of the copies, as well as if some further research has to be done, whereby whatever document is being requested is not all put together, we have to put it together. That requires time.
It does.
And the cost involved, so I'm not sure how we do that or where we get that information, but
The second paragraph from the bottom says a reasonable fee of 10 cents per page. However, that does not take into account the time that it takes to put things together. Personnel records are all together.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I know
That's no problem
the
there.
business office, I know, charges $1 because it involves going around and taking from different sources and compiling. So it takes into account the person's time involved. If you want to keep everything consistent, we can put $1 per page, or understanding that personnel records are kept in one file altogether. That administrative piece of racing around and trying to find different pieces doesn't exist for us.
Right.
So, however you
I would prefer to see a statement that says if the materials are readily available, 10 cents a page, or done on an hourly rate if we have to go, as we did in this nursing home, go back into the files to find out, we probably paid somebody 2 hours worth of work to chase this material down. Okay. The people have a right to know under 91A, but to say it's 10 cents a copy is ridiculous. It costs us far more than that.
And I can see circumstances, because all files were not kept in the personnel office up until recently. So it could involve going to the vault, maybe seeing if the nursing home or the jail or the sheriff's office has additional pieces, so that conceivably that could come into play.
I think it should be done on an hourly rate to cover our costs.
Okay.
But that doesn't go under this.
It could.
It could, but where the personal files are readily available, I think the question is, should it be 10 cents a page or should it be $1 a page?
I think 10 cents a page.
I can put 10 cents a page if readily available, or something to the effect that otherwise, if files are in storage or require, that it will be
may require an additional charge or something like that.
Okay.
Additional fees. Okay.
I have a question in this section. Records must be viewed in the presence of the human resources staff and may not be removed from the county complex. So in other words, it can go to one of those departments? What do you mean, what cannot be moved from the county complex?
If, for example, there was a hearing going on or an investigation in one location in place, as a means of convenience, I could see taking the file personally to that person to pull out whatever documents exist. I personally would never want the file, the actual file, to leave the office. I can see making copies and bringing them to somebody. I've also been in the habit over the years of any time something is requested, I noted on the front of the file who requested it, the date, and what the document was that was requested, just so there's no question. And an employee can look and see who's looked at their file as well.
Okay. Any further questions regarding the personal records access policy?
I don't see any need for them to leave the Human Resource Office.
No, and they shouldn't.
To take a copy of it and a resource person watch it to see what goes out, and they, if it's legit, they take the copy.
If there was an unemployment hearing, a Department of Labor hearing, something like that, it would be in the possession of someone from Human Resource, but only under those circumstances could I see it leaving.
So the files, so you can make copies and you can bring it to the other departments. But the file, I thought that, I think it was last year that we discussed that it was not leaving the Human Resource Department. So this is different now.
Well, I can foresee events where it would have to. Like I said, if I had an unemployment hearing or a hearing before the Department of Labor and I've got a fairly thick file from someone who's been here for a while, do I really need to photocopy everything? And in some cases, they'll require the originals. So I could see in my possession, or Deb's, before an administrative hearing of some kind, I could see times when you would need the actual file. But as a general rule, I don't see any reason why it should. It's just...
The other question, who have access to the personal records? Because it was an issue in 2011.
It should only be the Human Resource Office, the payroll for some certain payroll issues, and the commissioners. Now, if a department manager wants, or the department head wants photocopies of previous evaluations in order to see, or previous write-ups, in order to do either a corrective action or an updated evaluation, I would provide copies, but not originals.
Yeah, okay. Last year, in June 2011, was a motion made that the board needed to vote for it, to see it. That is no longer in place. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've never seen that. This is what the RSA, the New Hampshire RSA says.
So what they've been doing actually was wrong then. In 2011, they were saying the commissioners needed to vote, they cannot see personal records.
If a commissioner wanted to see a file,
any commissioner
what would
can just
happen
come
then?
to you and see.
I don't have a problem with that, as long as there's a member of Human Resources there. It's not as an issue of trust, it's just if someone's going to act individually as opposed to a board, I think that additional layer of protection to protect the commissioner as well from you remove something from that file, any sort of allegation like that. But you three are, in the absence of a county administrator, you three are the bosses, and if you want to see something, I'm not going to tell you no.
I think we ought to have, it ought to be the rule here that you have to have the majority vote of the board in order to look at the records.
However you want to do it. If you want an official vote, or if you just want to say, there's two of us downstairs and we want to see whatever. I don't know how formal you need to be or want to be.
I tend to agree. I think it ought to be a majority of the board.
A formal vote?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah. Okay.
I don't agree with that.
because I talked to another commissioner from the county, and he said he is just for evaluation, for write-ups, and for reappointments. He is going to the Human Resource Department. He doesn't know why Carroll County is making a big to-do of it, but he can request it because he's the commissioner. He's running the place.
Well,
we put it in last year. We saw him put it in, but I didn't see it here anymore. That's why I questioned it.
I would tend to agree with you, but there's nothing wrong with making something stricter, more strict than what this says here, if that's how the three of you want to go. I'm okay either way. It's just I need direction from you folks as to.
You want to make that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make well, I didn't know whether we wanted to do it today or when the public's here, and
she's just
you
going
might have
to
some
add
comment. I have no problem making the motion now if you want to make it.
She's
Well,
just
I
going
think
to add it
working on
in.
it.
She's just going to add it in that reference guide.
Well, she shouldn't add it until we have the vote. to do
Right.
it.
So you want to make that?
I'll make a motion that in order for any commissioner to retrieve, read, or copy records from the Human Resource Department, they must be authorized by a majority vote of the board.
That motion already stands. That was made last year.
I'll
So
second
I
it.
don't know why you have to do it over again.
Well, in here last
Well-
year, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But it'll be
So it's
reduced to
seconded.
writing now.
Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in support of the motion say aye.
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 I oppose.
So voted, 2-1.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like that vote recorded.
They'll be recorded.
That's how it was voted, not the total.
Say that again?
Huh?
Say that again?
I would like it, that it was Sorensen, yes, Babson, yes, Kenny, no.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is that as far as
Any
you
oth-
wanted to go today?
No,
You said
I
the first
don't-
5
Can we go
pages.
to the
No,
end of
we're
the
gonna go-
paragraph, which is the next page?
I
Sure.
think we were going to go, yeah, through page 10.
I don't know where this writing came from, Jan. Could be yours, maybe not. Notice of removal will be substituted for the original document. The
Yep.
notice of removal shall indicate the type of item. And I have note in here, i.e., it's not my writing, i.e. first, second warning, suspension, probation.
Right.
Is that your writing?
It is. I wrote that
Okay.
down as an explanation for you.
Is that for the next section or what?
On section 5, page 5.
It's the remainder of the human resource. That language is actually included in the collective bargaining agreements. Oftentimes, there may be a disciplinary action imposed for a term of 6 months, 3 months, 1 year. At the end of that period of time, the practice has been to withdraw that piece of paper if there hasn't been any further infraction, but you substitute in its place what has been withdrawn, a written warning. You don't say what it's for, you don't go into any sort of depth, but just so that
Second
there's,
probation, whatever.
for future prosperity, so that you know there was something in there.
Okay.
And that is agreeable, a mutual agreement between the person and the commissioners?
Yes. No, the department heads.
So a department head can remove,
Can request removal. And normally what happens is this is agreed to at the time of the disciplinary action, that a warning will stay in the person's file conditioned on good behavior for 1 year,
Yeah.
no further infraction. At the end of 1 year, I know just in the time that I've been here, we've agreed to that on a couple
Yeah.
of people. At the end of 1 year, 6 months, 90 days, that will be removed from the file, but substituted in its place is just a reference to the fact that there was a verbal warning, written warning, final.
I guess my point is, who can remove that from the file?
It would have to be just human resources with the agreement of, so in other words, if, at the time the disciplinary action comes in,
Yeah.
that 1 year has expired. The department head says, hey, by the way, which has happened, the 1 year time frame is up. Can we do a removal of that? But that was agreed to at the time.
Okay.
So if it's not agreed to, I suppose I would have to come before you folks. want to do it?
I'm not a control individual, but it seems like it ought to be approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Except that oftentimes the Board of Commissioners isn't involved in the intermediary steps of discipline. So do you want to be involved with removal?
Let's say it's a demotion.
Oh, something as important as that you would be involved in.
Okay.
But if it's an initial or a written warning where you weren't involved initially, do you want a year after the fact have to revisit the whole thing?
No, I think that we hire these directors of the different departments, and we should be giving them the support, and they're the leaders, and they ought to be making the decisions. But the demotion, that's a different situation, but a warning.
So if an individual wants their written warning removed from the file, the process would be to go through their supervisor, and if the supervisor agreed with it, then it would be automatically removed?
Not automatically, no. There would have to be some discussion. I'd have to look at the initial write-up.
So I guess who approves it then?
Usually at the base level, like Superintendent Johnson, for example, we have done that once or twice with a low level that at the time it was either a 30-day write-up or a 60-day write-up, that it was agreed to at the time that this was imposed. So I haven't run into that yet, so however you want to do it.
So Joe, why it appears from what you've said, you'd be the ultimate divider here, decider.
Not necessarily.
Well, you said it would be the director and they would come to you, is what you said.
Right, and if it was agreed to at the time that that was imposed, if that was the terms of it, conditioned on 30 days, 60 days, it's not that I'm deciding, I'm just complying with what was imposed initially. No one has come to me for a demotion or a suspension and said, I want that removed. I wouldn't do that. I'd have to come before you folks because you'd be involved in that decision.
Okay, let's say the individual wants it taken out, which is most
probably what will happen.
That probably what would happen, yeah. And the supervisor says, no, I don't want it taken out.
It doesn't get taken out.
That's the end of it.
As far as I'm
concerned. There's no appeal or anything else?
If they want to appeal, I'm sure their next step would be to follow the grievance process if they're part of the union and so forth.
So there is an appeal process.
Oh, sure.
If
there's always
it doesn't want to, if the director or superintendent doesn't want to take it out of the folder.
Either through the union or through the complaint process if they're not covered by the union. Sure.
Okay.
Dave, this is a long handbook. The next two or three pages are blank. Can't we just go to 9 and 10, which are just too short?
Yeah. Code of Conduct and Ethics.
Last week you said we're doing till 5 pages, so we do it now.
No, I think we said 10.
No, we said 5.
Well, I'd like to do 10. Let's get it done.
5.
Yeah. Code of Conduct, one thing that stands out is that there are 5 employment classifications and only have 4.
There's 4, I know. There was 5. There was a premium per diem at the nursing home, yes. And my understanding is there is a desire to move away from a premium per diem and just put them all under per diem. So initially that was listed here, but I have to correct that.
So we just changed the 5 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Up top, Jan, number 4. Harassment of employees or sexual misconduct will not be tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
I have a note here. It should be harassment of or by employees.
Right. I think that's spelled out further in the harassment policy, exactly what harassment means. There's a separate harassment.
No, what I'm saying is now harassment of employees. It doesn't, to me, it isn't clear enough. It should be, I think, harassment of or by employees.
But
so if someone comes from the outside and harasses an employee, covered.
Right.
If someone does it from within, they're covered.
Okay.
I don't know. It just seems to me.
Okay.
Harassment of or by.
Yep. And Roman numeral number 2. We offer all our employees of all backgrounds the opportunity to build their careers. Don't all employees have backgrounds?
Yes, they do.
So let's take that out. We offer all employees the opportunity to build their careers.
Sounds good.
And then over on page 10, shirts should, I've crossed it out so I can't read it.
Still should come out of there. Shirt should meet.
Yes.
What is that talking about? Page 10?
Yeah, number
Shirt
6.
should meet the waistline of pants when arms are raised or tucked in.
And what are you saying?
It says
Still.
shirts should still, so the word still needs to.
Take still out?
Yeah.
That's 10
Now,
pages.
is this a place whereby it deals with clothing? Union policy says that all employees that are required to wear a colored uniform be reimbursed $125 per year with receipts. We have some employees that are non-union employees that are claiming the $125 clothing allowance. Is it this place where it should be re-emphasized that only those that are required to wear colored uniforms be reimbursed?
Or specific uniforms.
Well, I'm saying colored because the union contract calls for certain colors for different departments, especially in the nursing home. Certain departments have different colored uniforms, whether it's tops or pants or whatever.
Okay.
And the only others exception might be the RNs. They're not covered
Right.
by union contract.
Right.
But they do wear colored uniforms to designate that they're an RN.
So you want something in here stating that they're not to be reimbursed, or that they are?
No, only those that are required by the union contract or by the director of the department to wear a specific uniform will be reimbursed for those.
And that's covered by the collective bargaining agreement for those folks, but
That
you're
is.
talking about the
I'm talking
RNs.
about non-union people.
Because the union uniforms will be in the union contract
Yeah.
for this dash, so we're
Right.
just talking about this.
And some
Also,
departments.
yeah, that they can only reimburse for uniform. Maybe we should add what they understand on the uniform, because somebody brought up, was somebody not collecting money for underwear, sure.
Yeah.
There was one, yeah.
Years ago. This started years ago
So.
when Marge Webster was
uniform.
here, who said that if the union's going to get it, then everybody should get it. And for a while, not everybody was getting it, but some people were. And we still have some of these people that are getting it. I just want to clarify it so that only those that are required to wear a particular uniform to do their job are the ones that get reimbursed that clothing allowance. Now, the only exception, I think, may be the RNs. They're not union, they're non-union people, but they do wear a special uniform. I don't know of any others.
Okay. Do you want me to find out first before we even address
Okay.
that, how big that pool
All right.
is?
And did you want to give the sheriff union, not union, but uniform?
Yeah, but I don't think that should go in this
No,
policy.
no, okay.
Yes, I do. I think they're gonna wear them out again.
Keep in mind too that each department's gonna have its own unique needs, and we're not attempting to address all of those particular little nuances. For example, if you get into holiday time, the nursing home cannot have people taking personal days around for the 2 weeks surrounding the holidays. It just cuts into their staffing huge. So they have the right to black those days out. But yet, in other departments, that might be the ideal time for people to take their time because courts are closed a significant period of time. So we're not trying to address every single little nuance and still giving the departments the latitude that in specialized circumstances, you know, they can input their own.
This was more specific, Jan. The sheriff's contract says that the employees will get their uniform and their dry cleaning paid for. And it's always been a sore spot with me that the sheriff is part of management and not the union, and we've had sheriffs that have taken their personal suits down and claimed they were uniforms, taken their. And
Kurt, you're saying expensive ties.
And so my thought is I'm more than willing to do the same thing for the sheriff in paying for his uniform as we pay for the deputies, but no dry cleaning of private suits claiming their uniforms, no buying boots and saying no buying private clothing because you've claimed to have worn out what you were wearing. So I don't see that going in the sheriff's policy, and I don't see it going in here. I think it's just something that we have to establish with the budget, with the delegation, that the sheriff will be allowed to get whatever it is, $450 a year for the uniforms or whatever.
That would make more sense.
As long as it's a uniform and not civilian clothes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any problems with the personal appearance policy? Do we want to go one more page 11 and 12?
Well, David, I would, but I've got my notes all here, and I'm having trouble understanding what I've said, and I want to go home and study them again.
Okay.
I can read my writing, but I can't. Failure to comply with local and state and federal regulations. I have speeding. So you're going to give somebody a problem because they caught speeding? Because remarks like that, I want to take a closer look and go over them again. I've got 4 sections I've marked up here.
Okay, then we will next week start with page 11.
Okay.
And go through
Page 20 starts donated sick time policy, and that might be a good page to start a third session. So, do we have enough pages? There's no blanks in here, 11 through. Yeah, we do. We have 2 blanks.
You want to go through page 20 next week?
Through page 20, yeah.
Okay, Asher? We go from page 11 through page 20 next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We need to go into non-public.
Can I ask Jen a quick question on 11, because we're going to bring it up next week. My first comment is on A, harassment and sexual harassment, and my note says need time here. Do we define what harassment is anywhere in here? So I don't remember seeing it.
It is
page 21st. Harassment policy?
Yes, page 21. The midway down, it says harassment
defined. Okay.
And then sexual harassment defined, reporting procedure and so forth.
Well, for next week, would you just, because I probably won't be able to read my writing next week either. I think maybe a note in there that see page 21 or whatever word.
Can we approve the minutes?
Yeah,
when we get to it. Thank you.
Did you want
Okay.
to for non-public?
Or
Howie, or?
Are you covered?
Yeah.
How long are we going to be on the telephone with a lawyer? We don't want anybody over here and them sitting around and find out we can't.
Why don't we,
let's do the minutes first.
we'll do the minutes and then we'll recess, make the phone call, and then come back in non-public for
Nursing home.
Nursing
Is
home
that-
and sheriff.
The sheriff.
Nursing home and the sheriff,
Yeah, sheriff, the sheriff.
for, I guess, personnel reasons.
So,
The January 16, 2013, any corrections by the commissioners?
You got any corrections on
Left
minutes?
mine downstairs. I had one down there, that was
Just
the
that one.
human resource, that was the other one.
Yeah, change
Thank you,
that.
Jan.
Human services to human resource.
Page 2, yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for January 16th as corrected.
Yeah, second.
Second it, okay. Any further discussion? All in support of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All right, and so voted. Okay, at this time, then, I think we'll recess, make our phone call, and when we come back from our recess, we'll be going into non-public. So basically, this completes our commissioners' meeting as far as the public is concerned. Okay, I've given you the opportunity for public input, so.
And for the record, while that's on, I'll make a motion, we go into non-public session at the completion of our telephone call with our lawyer for personnel reasons.
Second it. Roll call.
We're not going now into non-public.
Yeah, well, after recess, after we make a phone call. He wants to make it public while the public is still here. So it's been, motion's been made and seconded, and we need a roll call.
Commissioner Kenny, yes. Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes,
Commissioner Bobson.
Yes.
and so voted.